Honorable members, we now proceed with the debate on the independent panel report, and I now call on the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Somlomo obekekileyo. Somlomo obekekileyo. Usekela Mongameli. Amalungi onke ombutho akhoyo apha namalungu eParlamente. Namhlanje amahlo esizwe athe ntsho kule ngxoxo mpikiswano ngomba obaluleke kakhulu kwimbali yendlu yowiso noqingqo mthetho. Nakwisizwe soMzantsi Afrika ngokubanzi siphawula ngengxelo yophando olwenziwe ligqiza elizimeleyo leenkcuba buchopho zomthetho malunga nebholo lokubiwa kwemali kwifama kaMongameli umnumzana uCyril Matamela Ramaphosa. Kokokuqala ezimbalini zalendlu ukuba sixoxe ngokususa uMongameli esihlalweni sakhe phantsi kwemigaqo yalendlu esekezelwe kwisolotya 89 ke ngoko esikwenzayo namhlanje kuya kuma njengomzekelo kwiziphakamiso ezizayo ezinokuba loluhlobo. Kakade ke elinyathelo lale mibutho iphikisayo libangela ukuba sibe kule ndawo alikho msulwa liqhinga loqhimgqosho abasoloko bezungula ichele. Iqela eliqulunqe esisicelo somlomo lasekwa ngabo bangqondo bugqirha ukuze liphakamise kule Parlamente izindululo zokungamthembi uMongameli kwaye licele uba uMongameli ehle esikhundleni. Kudala ke bezama amatyeli ngamatyeli ukuzisa isiphakamiso sokungamthembi uMongameli bekhokhelwa ngumbutho wamalungu amabini. Umhlekazi obekekileyo uzungula oko ezungula ichele wangena wazungula ichele kusuka ngo2019 ngo2022 oko wazungula ichele. Singumbutho weANC sithe sahlala phansi sanika ingqalelo kumgaqo siseko siye sandula ke ukufunda imigaqo yalendlu yowisomthetho. Le ngxelo ayibopheleli kwinkqubo yomgaqo. Somlomo obelekileyo nantoni na esiyenzayo kule ndlu kufuneka ibe semthethweni kuba sithi abaqulunqi bomthetho asikwazi ukukekela ke sizenze unonkala sihambe ngokwemfuno zamaqela aphikisayo kuba wona efuna isiphumo esithile. Kudala sibacenga ogxa bethu into yoba ukuba ngaba nifuna ulawulo makubhekwe ebantwini evotini khona ukuze nibuye nilawule kakuhle. Ngoqinisekileyo ke le nkqubo sikuyo ekugqibeleni iza kugqitywa ngento yoba sivote into yoba ngobani abayixhasayo nabangayixhasi le ngxelo. Ngoko ke kukho abanenjongo ezizezinye kule nto sikuyo. Eli gqiza ngokwalo liyavuma into yoba ixesha libe lincinane kakhulu.
Honorable Member, I'm sorry, Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party. There's a point of order from Honorable Kwangwa. Yes, Honorable Kwangwa.
Okay. Nkosi, thank you very much, Speaker.
Pansi.
I rise on a point of order and parliamentary language.
And
Uthe uChief Whip sinengqondo zamagqwirha uthi siyathakatha. Sicela irhoxiselo.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Honorable Chief Whip, will you please withdraw that akuna magqwirha apha? Withdraw, Honorable Chief Whip.
Hayi ndizawurhoxa kodwa ibingatsho uba bangamagqwirha ibithi ingqondo bugqwirha. Kodwa ke xa utshoyo somlomo ngokuzithoba ndiyarhoxa.
Enkosi, thank you. Proceed.
Igqiza ebeliphanda likhokhwele nguJustice uNgcobo libhale ingxelo likhokhelwa bubulungu nobungqina obubekwe phambi kwayo. Eli solotya likwingxelo lihlwayela imbewu yentandabuzo kwabaninzi abaye bayifunda le ngxelo. Baninzi ke oompondo zihlanjiwe bezomthetho abathe besakuyifunda le ngxela bakhwela bezehlela kwigqiza. Thina siyi-ANC siyayihlonipha indima ethathwe leli gqiza kwaye asinakuze siyihlasele nakanye, sithi bawenzile umsebenzi. Ithi loo nto thina balapha kule ndlu yoqingqo mthetho funeka siyebuyele siyolungisa ii-rules zethu ngoba zenze bangakwazi usebenza ngokugqibeleleyo. Somlomo obekekileyo nendlu leyo yowisomthetho, igqiza elizimeleyo alikwazanga ukufikelela kwinqontsonqa yobungqina bokuchaza ukuba umongameli waphule mthetho mnina kwisinina. Lithi igqiza libotshwe izandla ngusection 129 kodwa amaqela aphikisayo athi masiqhubeke thoba umoya sisi siyokuzingela ubungqina ngethemba lokuba bungavela ngenye imini. Thina singumbutho wesizwe sithi kungxanyelwe phina nto zakuthi. Sitsho ukuba amaziko asibhozo ayaphanda, masivumele la maziko aphande aqoshelise. Kuphanda amapolisa, kuphanda uvimba woMzantsi Afrika, kuphanda i-NPA, kuphanda umkhuseli woluntu. Masibalinde baphande baqoshelise, hleze ke emva kuba beqoshelisile singabuya size apha kule ndlu sizothetha nto yimbi. Okwangoku asinazo iinkcukacha ezaneleyo. Somlomo sithathela ingqalelo inyathelo likamongameli lokusa ingxelo kwigqiza kwinkundla yomgaqo siseko kodwa asibanjwanga yiloo nto into yoba singaxoxi. Sithi ingxelo ayigqibelelekanga. Umbutho wesizwe i-African National Congress ayisekeli ayixhasi le ngxelo de kubekho ubungqina obubambekayo bokuba kutheni kufuneka siyivotele. Nokuba ingabuya kulo nyaka ozayo noba ingabuya ngomso, uba ngaba iza inento ebambekayo sizawuxoxa loo nto ikhona. Okwangoku ayinasihlahla le ngxelo ikhoyo, masivumele kuqhutywe. Iba ngumnqa ke into yoba bonke abantu bafuna ukuthethela i-ANC namalungu wayo. Abajoyinanga eminye imibutho, bajoyine i-ANC. ANC mayinikwe indawo yayo ixoxe namalungu wayo, isebenze njengokuba nawena amalungu avota ngolu hlobo nifuna ngawo. Yekani ukufuna i-secret vote nizifunele i-ANC. Ulawulo aluthathwa lutsalwe ngomsila, alungenwa ngosango lakwasemva. Ubheka pha ujongane nevote uze abantu bakubeke. Sithi ke okwangoku asixhasi le ngxelo siyi-African National Congress, sithi makuzobunye ubungqina esinokwazi ubuxhasa. Manibulele kakhulu Somlomo.
I thank you, honorable members. I thank you, honorable member. The next on the floor will be the honorable, the leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 11 days ago, Mr. President, you were ready to quit. Your mind was made up, the speech was written, and you had resigned yourself to resign. And this wasn't some noble sacrifice to your country. No, you were going to resign from office because the alternative was unthinkable to you and potentially fatal to your party. The alternative would mean answering questions before a committee of Parliament about the large stockpile of money that you had hidden away in your farmhouse. Money that you claim was nothing other than a Christmas Day buffalo shopping combined with some lax admin and poor bookkeeping. But let me assure you, Mr. President, not many people in this House and even fewer people out there believe that you have been truthful about the origin of the money, why it spent 2 months hidden in your sofa, what you'd intended to do with it, or why you tried for 2 years to cover up evidence that it ever actually even existed. Those questions all remain unanswered. And it was the prospect of having to answer them under oath that convinced you to write your resignation speech. That is how damaging the Phala Phala truth is to you personally, and clearly also to your party. And it was only when your ANC comrades reminded you about how the ANC normally deals with these inconveniences, how easily the ANC is willing to abuse its majority in this House to crush any notion of accountability, that you then decided to cancel your resignation. Satisfied that the protection of your caucus would make the questions simply go away, you decided then to step back into the ring. And of course, we've been here before, and not so long ago. We all sat in this House, debate after debate, vote after vote, and watched the ANC majority shield Jacob Zuma from half a dozen motions of no confidence and one impeachment vote. We had to watch an embarrassment as shameless MPs all nodded in agreement with the ridiculous Firepool video. Our parliament became the laughing stock of the world as 250 grinning and heckling ANC MPs reduced this once august House into a mindless defender of the indefensible. And when Judge Zondo wrote his final report on state capture, never again, we were told, in the wake of the Zondo report, never again would Parliament be declawed and disempowered as it was in those dark days. Not under this president who rode into town majestically on the promise of a new dawn and pledged to do things differently. And yet, here we are again. Then it was in Nkandla, now it's Phala Phala. Then it was fire pools and cattle kraals, now it's couches stuffed with dollars. Then it was President Jacob Zuma, now it's President Cyril Ramaphosa. But it's exactly the same modus operandi. As long as you got the numbers in Parliament, you can make any scandal go away. And if that's how you intend to vote today, in one unified shield against accountability and oversight, just like you did in the Zuma days, then shame on you. And President Ramaphosa, if that's what you expect and demand of your caucus, after everything we've been through in the wake of state capture and the Zondo report, then you, sir, are no different to your predecessor. So I ask that every member thinks carefully about what today's vote means. We're not voting to find a president innocent or guilty. We're not weighing up evidence to reach a verdict. That will only happen later. Today is about letting due process take its course. It's about acknowledging, as the authors of the report did, that there are big questions that remain unanswered, and that it can only be solved by an inquiry undertaken by this House. And that is the test before us today. Have we learnt anything from the past, or are we prepared to once again break our Parliament in defense of a leader who doesn't want to be accountable? Our country cannot afford the turmoil that will come with the president fighting for his political life and his skin. We don't have the luxury of time, and we're in trouble. We have an electricity crisis. We have a crime crisis with our citizens under daily attack. We have an unemployment crisis where 43% of our citizens, most of them under 30, cannot find a job. For 60 million South Africans, these crises are real. And we need a president with both hands on the wheel, both eyes on the road, and a head in the game. And so, honourable members, you do have a choice today. And the world is watching your decision. So I ask every member in the House today, remember your oath of office. Remember who you're meant to serve. And then vote in favour of adopting this report. Thank you.
I thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable J.S. Malema.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Mr. President, we must begin by expressing our deepest disappointment in you as an individual who has been celebrated as one of the architects of the Constitution of South Africa. On the 10th of December 1996, you sat head and shoulder with President Nelson Mandela and committed this country and yourself to abiding by the rule of law and to protect and defend the constitution that President Mandela signed on that day. You vowed in front of the world that you will hold sacrosanct the ideals of accountability and transparency which is enshrined in the Constitution without fail. Today, 26 years after you held Nelson Mandela's hand, lifted our Constitution high into the air, you stand as the greatest enemy of constitutionalism and accountability. As a so-called architect of the Constitution, you have resolved to take Parliament of South Africa to court to avoid constitutional obligation of accountability. As a so-called crafter of our democratic dispensation, you are accused of engaging in activities that characterized a criminal underworld. As a so-called champion of accountability to masses of our people, you today avoid scrutiny and questioning like a fugitive. Mr. President, your reluctance to allow inquiry into the activities of Phala Farm are shocking and concerning. You are so desperate to avoid any type of investigation into the crimes that have occurred at and in relation to Phala Farm that you have decided to spit in the face of the freedoms and institutions so many fought and died for. It is concerning because it means worse has happened in the farm that you do not want people of South Africa to know. Instead of using the process of the impeachment inquiry to clear your name, you have mobilized your party to fight against an attempt to discover the truth of what happened in Phala Farm. Mr. President, you stand accused of theft from the people of South Africa. You stand accused of violating your oath of office and of violating the Constitution. You have stashed money in mattresses and allegedly avoided paying taxes. It is now accepted fact that you did not declare millions of foreign currency kept in your sofas to the South African Reserve Bank. It is now an undeniable fact that you have engaged in paid work while occupying the office of the President of South Africa. It is an undenied fact that your answers regarding Phala Farm are unreliable because they change depending on the audience you speak to. It has become clear that you have no intention of taking responsibility for the crimes of Phala Farm because at every opportunity you blame vulnerable staff members of the crimes, staff members who can only operate under your instructions. If you are not blaming staff, you are compromising investigative institutions and casting aspersion on those who make damning findings. You have degenerated and you are clinching to power under the instruction of a faction that is desperate to control the levers of state power at the expense of the people of this country. Mr. President, I want to remind you that I warned you of surrounding yourself with yes men and women who will ill advise you in the interest of their stomach. I warned you that you should not allow factionalism to dictate the decision you take when it comes to South Africa. I warned you that the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers will not be there to defend you when we ask you to account for the decisions you implement on their behalf. I warned you of how patronizing factions can be because they will never tell you the truth. Now you have decided to take your very own parliament to court because you have allowed factions to guide your decision-making instead of your integrity and conscience. You have engaged in questionable activities such as alleged laundering of money, the abduction of suspects of crime, the misuse of state resources because the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers made you feel like you are untouchable. Today, we are touching you because you are not in the pockets of your faction or your handlers. We are touching you because we knew that white monopoly capital will use you and toss you aside. Mr. President, you should be ashamed that you have become the enemy of what so long defined your legacy. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, we declare without fear of contradiction that you are an enemy of the Constitution of South Africa. From today, you will be treated like a real constitutional delinquent. No amount of numbers can intimidate us into silence. We have done this before, we will do it again. What if the president of South Africa is a spy? What if the spy is paid in foreign currencies? Why are the members of the ruling party not concerned to want to find the truth if their president is not in the pockets of foreign agents? What have you become so much that you are scared to hold one individual accountable in defense of our constitution? As we sit here today, you have an opportunity to choose an individual over the Constitution of South Africa, to choose thuggerism over accountability. But all of you must know that history will judge you harshly. It is this man who held the hand of Nelson Mandela and said the Constitution of South Africa is above all of us. Today is the same man who's peeing on the...
Uthini?